Good evening, all. Welcome to the 50th session of CENTA's webinar series for teachers. Today is a landmark session for us. Those of you who have been following us closely since April would remember that we've tried doing at least one session for you each week since the lockdown began, and it's been an incredible journey thus far. Thank you so much for your support and enthusiastic participation. And this is something that we intend to keep on doing week after week, even in the new year. And hopefully, with your support, we will be able to make the series even bigger. Uh, Shifting the focus to today's session, as you all know, is going to focus on the four C's of 21st century skills: critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, and communication. And for this special session, we have a special facilitator, Ms. Mansa Pandey. Good evening, Mansa ma'am. Mansa
Good
ma'am
evening.
is Mansabam is a senior teacher trainer and assessments expert and a transformation coach. Her expertise lies in using innovative instructional strategies to deliver highly interactive and engaging lessons. And she's also a specialist in the field of English language training and content development. Mansabam is also the national topper of the very first edition of CENTA TPO, which happened in 2015. I still remember that. Those of you who've been following our webinar series would remember that we had done a session earlier, I think it was in May, on how to use ARC to inculcate inquiry-based learning in students. And a lot of you had, that session was very, very well received by a lot of you. So we thought that, we'll bring her back for this special session. Good evening, ma'am. Great to have you with us again, and over to you.
Thank you, Karthik, and thank you, CENTA, for Can you hear me?
No, ma'am. I think we lost you. We lost you after
Hello?
the thank you. Hello? No, ma'am. I think we lost you after the thank you. I think you're back. You're back now. I think, yeah, you're back now.
Good evening, everybody. This is me. See me.
Uh, Mansa ma'am seems to be facing some network issues, so we'll just try and fix that meanwhile. Apologies for that. She is in in an area with poor connectivity, so I'd request you to just bear with us for a couple of minutes, and we'll just start again. Apologies for that. So Mansa ma'am is just facing some technical issues. We're just trying to resolve that. But meanwhile, we just have to wait for 5 minutes. I'm really sorry for this. She's in a poor connectivity zone, so I mean, nothing much we can do. But hopefully, she'll be back in 5 minutes. Meanwhile, yeah, I think there is one announcement I would like to make, and this is something which I do every week. This is regarding the the webinar participation records. So first and foremost, it's very important for you to fill in the feedback form to get the participation record, and that participation record and that feedback form is going to be shared in the live chat section and also in on my center. So please make sure that you fill in the feedback form. I think Mansa ma'am is back. I'll just patch her in. Yes, ma'am.
I'm going sort of take a short break in between just for laptop and see if it works, because this is
Sure.
um, can I have my PPT, please? Great.
Yeah.
Next. Next slide, please. All right. So as we know that we're all familiar with the 4 C's of 21st century skills. NEP is talking about it in one way or the other page. And so let's see how, rather than focusing, my focus today is going to be not on how we bring it so much as bringing it into the classroom, but as to how we can inculcate these within ourselves, in our own daily routines that we follow in our classrooms. This webinar is going to raise a lot more questions than provide you with ready-made answers or solutions. It's a statutory warning, but it's a brave world. Teacher to here we go. Next. Next, please. We take creativity first. Creativity is at the very is the heart and pulse of humanity. If you see, differentiates us from all the other living creatures. All the other creatures, whereas, have no other choice but to live in the real world. But we, while what's happening? What's the password?
Uh, really sorry for that. We're just trying to, fix it. I Yeah.
Sorry for this. Is, like I was talking about, is one of the things that actually enables human beings to live in the world of our thoughts, of our ideologies, of our beliefs, of our cultures. Psychologists, in fact, is a very interesting definition that I picked up, where describe it in generation through perspiration. I mean, in the sense, if you have great ideas and just you are being imaginative, but mm, uh, next. So there are many definitions of creativity, but to me, this particular, I love this little strip, Charlie Brown strip of cartoon, and I use it often in different situations. Uh, Here, Charlie Brown is telling his friend that he has taught his dog how to whistle, and the friend looks at the dog and says, well, he's not whistling. So Charlie Brown says, I have taught him, but I didn't say he learned it. And this is, I think, the crux of the matter, that we teach and we teach, and are is the learning happening now? Teach by very nature of their profession, the professional need, are creative. I mean, if not, if you creative, that to be not a teacher, there must teachers must break down complex ideas into simpler ones.
Uh, Mansam, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but there's
Small aging. They must be able to. Uh, Karthik, can I take a little break and log in from somewhere else? Just give me 2 minutes.
sure, ma'am. Sure. There's a bit of a lag also, so I would recommend that you stop your camera so
Just
that
give
the
me two
bandwidth that we
minutes.
have. Sure. Yes, Mukul Mishra, ma'am. That's what we are suggesting, ma'am, to do. She has limited bandwidth, and we're trying to tell her to just use the audio, not the video. So we'll try doing that. Good evening, Sham Raut, sir. How are you? Yes, Atul sir, there is an issue. Mansa ma'am is facing some issues with her connectivity, so we are trying to resolve that. Meanwhile, I'm just really sorry for this, but we are trying to resolve the issue. Good evening, Meera ma'am. Good evening. Thank you, Hanuman sir. Thanks a lot. And I can see someone from Tripura has joined us. So welcome. Sumaya Gulzar ma'am, in case you haven't received the certificate of the last session, please make sure that you please drop us an email on team@centa.org, and please make sure that you fill in the feedback form for the session, and that will help you get the certificate. Uh, Good evening, Jyoti ma'am. Good evening. Thank you, Yogita ma'am. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Sneha ma'am. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Katsi Rizvi. Thanks a lot. Good evening, Leena ma'am. How are you? Good evening, Jai Hind, Alok sir from Sunbeam. Good evening. Thank you, Pradyumna sir. Thanks a lot. We're just having some issues at Mansa ma'am's end with her connectivity, so we're just trying to resolve that and appreciate your patience in that regard. Uh, Good evening, Radha ma'am. Good evening, ma'am. Good evening, Yunus sir. Good evening. Someone from Charki Datri has joined us. Kiran Chiller, ma'am, welcome to the session. We're just having some issues which we're trying to resolve. Yeah, this usually doesn't happen, but yeah, I mean, that's the that's how technology works, right? So yeah, I just got an update from my colleague. Mansa ma'am is joining again in a couple of minutes, and then she's just trying to log in again. So we'll just wait for her. Thank you, Shamim sir. Thanks a lot. Good evening, Krishna ma'am. Good evening. Good evening, Shiny ma'am. Thank you, Tabasum ma'am. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. I just can't thank all of you enough because this is actually, as I said, the 50th session of the series, and we've reached here because it's just because all of you've been enthusiastic supporters of the initiative, and I, I think Mansa ma'am is back. Yes,
Extremely sorry. It's just one of those
not a problem.
things.
Not a problem.
So, like I was saying, the teachers, by nature of their profession, have need to be creative. They must break down complex ideas into simpler ones through creative approaches, and break it down into smaller steps to transmit it to their students. So and yet keep the whole session engaging. They must be able to adopt various creative methods to reach all kinds of students, students of all intelligences, all kinds of aptitudes, all kinds of learning styles, abilities. They're expected to read each student and to be able to, in an ideal situation, reach out to the specific needs of every student in their classroom. So a creative teacher has the power to transform the teaching in the classroom and see those light bulbs go on. But therefore, there is no choice. I mean, if you are a teacher, you are creative. You there is no choice here. Next slide. So actually, I'm here to make a case for teaching with creativity more than teaching for creativity. Before we even start talking about instilling creative thought processes in our students, we need to talk about our own creativity levels. Now, this was a picture that I had clicked when I was training I won't name the state, and I was just walking past and I saw this board. Now, school college project ready made, which means this shop is advertising that students can pick up ready-made projects here. And how is this shop even running? Because the teachers, our schools are accepting those projects. I mean, how creative does that make us? When we accept these kinds of projects, which have not even an iota of creativity involved from the student, isn't it time for us to question our own creative skills? I don't even want to talk about ethics, but yes, our own creative skills. Next slide, please. This is another little thing that I came upon on internet. आसानी से बनाना सीखे बच्चों का holiday homework. I mean, advertising to parents to make that kids project. And the thing is that all this is happening because we as educators are accepting it. Next, please. So, if you do a Google search on creativity, you are pretty quickly going to run into an article or some material on this test, this survey, which was done by Professor George Land, who had worked with NASA, and as you can see in the slide, he did carried out this survey and found that he tracked those same people over the years, and it was found that 2-year-olds, 5-year-olds are at their creative best. 98% of them can be classified as creative geniuses. And as you grow older, and by the time you become adults, it's just 2% of us actually have the capacity to be creative geniuses. Now, like all studies, I'm sure the study also had some limitations, and we don't really need to take it as gospel truth. But the fact is that this is just not the only study which shows the presence of creativity in younger students, and as we grow older, we seem to sort of lose our creative capacity. Now, in your own personal lives, if you see little children, one thing does stand out is that the younger the child, the less inhibited they are. They're not afraid to make all kinds of unrelated connections because they haven't learned that these things don't necessarily go together yet. And they stride right ahead and think out of the box and come up with these fantastic ideas. So this ability to make connections between seemingly unrelated things is also called as divergent thinking, is one of the most important tenets of creative thinking. Next, please. So here's some more evidence. Sir Ken Robinson, I'm sure most of us are very familiar with him. One of the world's most influential voices in the field of education. He just passed away this August, and I'm a big fan of his. And you must listen to this TED talk where he talks of creativity and makes a very profound and entertaining case for creating an education system that nurtures, that actually nurtures creativity rather than undermines it. So a great TED talk, extremely funny. Must watch it. And of course, I use this book as almost like a Bible, creative schools, where he raises the question of do schools actually kill creativity. He talks in this book, in this very, very inspiring, empowering book, about the new vision of education to transform student lives, enable young children. What is it that we can do in our classrooms to enable young children to flourish, to think out of the box? This book is filled with practical examples and some groundbreaking research, and I really recommend having it in the school library for the teachers, and you must have a personal copy. It's available on Amazon. It inspires the kind of change that we need in our classrooms. And when we, one of the best things about reading this book was that it also makes you reflect upon your own creative capacities, and how is it that you can develop those creative, get to those creative juices flowing. Next, please. Yes. So it's a question of not whether how to develop creativity. It's all there. Are we courageous enough? Are we brave enough to embrace it? Are we running after facts and figures and knowledge, or are we ready to unleash our imagination and brave enough to accept that in our children? Are we sort of focusing on our search for the right answer, at the singular answer, or are we brave enough to go exploring, not knowing what might lie at the other end? Are our assessment processes just testing replication of knowledge, or are we truly for ourselves and for our students giving impetus to innovation and innovative ideas? This is a short poem that I really like, and it just gives the essence of what I'm trying, and as Nin, a sense of what I'm trying to say here, is that creative processes are innate capacities which human beings are naturally creative. Whenever we try to do something novel, we are bound to discover along the way that things don't sort of work every time, and you might sort of hit false starts and dead ends. Every creative process is iterative. And if we have a system, and if we have an education system that expects the right answer every single time, in fact for the very first time, and has no room for mistakes, penalizes mistakes, I mean the dreaded red pen crosses, we are actually nipping creativity in the bud. Systems of assessment have to change. We need to move away from standardized testing and marking to more inquiry based, project based, experiential learning processes, and not just for children but for ourselves, because for this the teachers have to change their mindsets. We When I'm talking about mindsets, I mean, so many times in the webinar, you holding a webinar and you can see the rapidly moving chats moving in the chat box, and towards after half time, questions start popping up. Are we going to get the certificate? When will we get the certificate? You know it's incredible that the focus is not on the joy of learning, or what is happening right now, but the focus is more on getting a certification. I mean, I'm not saying that's not important or in any sense, but it's just that our own mindsets as teachers, as parents, we are in this kind of a rat race, and hardwired to the product, that the whole process, the journey, the joy of the journey, the joy of learning is completely lost. The joy of exploration is completely lost. Next. So here I would like to show you an amazing example of the kind of things that can happen when teachers are brave enough, courageous enough to lead their students on the path of inquiry and give them free rein to express their deepest thoughts and feelings. I stay in Panchkani, and I work with Devrai Art Village, and we have students coming from various schools. This was a school from Mumbai who had come and worked with these fantastic Dogra craftsmen from Gadchiroli and Chhattisgarh, and look at the mind-blowing stuff that the students were told just one thing, that please create whatever you feel strongly about, just create a piece of art depicting that. And next slide please. So just look at this child. This student wanted to say that talk about global warming, the rising levels of sea level, rising sea levels, and wanted to convey the disaster, impending disaster. Next. This is another student who had this is an ear and the mouth, and just wanted to talk about the power of how important it is to listen more and talk less. Mm, uh, just the torso of a man with muscles, talking about the power of menial labor, the power of physical labor. Next slide, please. Some amazing. I mean, each piece had a story behind it, a thought process, a deep conviction that the students wanted to convey when they created these art pieces. Next, please. One of my most favorite ones is this. It was the student wanted to say that although we are taught that the heart is made of ventricles and veins and arteries, and but actually the heart is actually made of feelings and emotions, and we must really take great care of these feelings and emotions. So amazing work. And because the teacher who was leading them was brave enough, courageous enough, and creative enough to let the students able to explore, and was not afraid to herself uh, be there. And it is a journey. When your kids do this, it is a creative journey for you as well. Yeah. Next. So there are a whole lot of myths about creativity. Only special people are creative. Uh, no. Yes, some people are truly gifted, but research shows that every human being has a seed of creativity. Creativity draws from many powers that we all have by virtue of being human. It is only about arts? Absolutely not. Creativity is possible in all facets of human life, technology, science, mathematics, politics, business, even cuisine, every part of life. Uh, it cannot be taught. It's inborn. Incorrect. Like many human capacities, our creative powers can be honed, can be cultivated and refined. Um, in the groundbreaking book, great book, very thin book available on Amazon, The Talent Code. Daniel Coyle uses cutting edge neurological research to crack the talent code and provides the reader with evidence that talent can be developed through he named three things: deep practice, ignition, and master coaching. Great book. It's all to do with uninhibited self-expression. No. Creativity, on the other hand, the foundation of creativity involves a lot of factual knowledge, assimilation of factual knowledge, and high levels of practical skills. I mean, when you start playing a violin, and with practice and with hard work, you get better and better. And as you develop more and more skills, you become more creative. You have the capacity to become more creative by virtue of that continuous practice. So these are some of the myths that are around creativity. Next, please. We move on to critical thinking now. World Economic Forum's the latest report, the third report. You can see that in the second point, critical thinking and problem solving are one of the topmost skills that employers are looking for, will be looking for in the next 5 years. So that's how important critical thinking is going to be. It is, and it is going to be. Next. So, like all other sort of qualities, critical thinking is also variously defined, differently defined by different people. Simply put, actually, critical thinking is actually being able to dig deeper and looking at a particular thing from all perspectives, and if it's a problem, to be able to come up with a solution, and if a decision has to be made, to come up with the most suitable decision. To me, that is what is critical thinking. And we are critically short of critical thinking in uh, the ASAR reports, Pratham's ASAR reports, the National Achievement Survey, year after year, done by an NCRT, shows that our students, whether they are in schools or colleges or research scholars, we all lack in critical abilities, and therefore the onus falls on us to bring these systems into the classroom. And how can we bring them if we ourselves don't train ourselves to critically think? Next, please. So one of the since we just have an hour and we've lost some time, I'm not going to be able to really talk in detail about this, but this is one of the most fantastic things that I have discovered. You must have heard of Harvard's Project Zero. Just Google it. Uh, it was they came up with something called as visible thinking routines. They decided that uh, people need to think, and that thinking needs to be made visible, and especially in the classrooms where it's the nursery of the future. So that's where. So visible thinking is a um, flexible, systematic, research based conceptual framework, which was developed by Project Zero at Harvard, which aims to integrate the development of students thinking with the content of various subjects. What is wonderful about this, what I find, is that when you incorporate these visible thinking routines in your classrooms, it also enhances your own critical thinking abilities. I have the experience of using these, and I've noticed that my own critical thinking capacities get boosted. So visible thinking is was actually it was started in Sweden as part of innovating with intelligence project, in collaboration with Harvard, and the approach emphasized three core practices: thinking routines, the documentation of student thinking, and reflective practices, professional practices. But ever since then, it has expanded. The focus now has expanded, and it includes Project Zero's visible thinking now includes the role arts and cultural forces play in developing critical thinking. All this is available on the PZ Project Zero Harvard. Just Google it. Amazing material available. I've just shown you there are 9 thinking routines which you can pick and choose. As you can, if you want the class to dig deeper into something, you can pick one of the protocols, one of the routines from the dig deeper cluster. If you are just starting the topic, introducing a topic, you can pick up the routine from that cluster. Can we move on to the next? The next is a video. Will we be able to play the video, please? Is it possible?
Yes, ma'am. Should be
This video
possible.
is available on YouTube. You can just this gives a brief sort of what are visible thinking routines, why would one want to use them, why should one use them, how can one get started. The best thing about, like I told you, with these routines is that not just students but even the teachers develop critical thinking skills using these routines.
What can we as educators do to help students become better thinkers? One might assume that a good place to start is to teach thinking skills. But is teaching skills enough? We often miss opportunities to use the skills we have simply by not noticing times when they might be useful. Good thinkers not only know how to think creatively, critically, and deeply, they actually do it. They have a repertoire of thinking moves to draw on, they're inclined to use them, and they're sensitive to the times when thinking would be helpful. In other words, they're in the habit of observing, analyzing, and questioning. So can we teach this? Researcher educators at Project Zero have been exploring this question for many years and think the answer is yes. The thinking routines they have developed as part of their research invite learners of any age to be close observers, to organize their ideas, to reason carefully, and to reflect on how they're making sense of things. These routines are flexible enough to be used to engage learners with any artifact, system, or concept, including their own thought processes. Thinking routines are simple structures, for example, a set of questions or a short sequence of steps that can be used alone or with a group. They are designed to be easy to remember, practical, and to invite a broad range of thinking moves. They are well suited to leverage the power of collaborative thinking and transfer easily to any context. You can use them without training or prior experience, figuring out how they work along with your students just by using them. Thinking routines help students go beyond the superficial, inviting them to dig deeper by making the complex accessible. Through practice, learners become sensitive to opportunities to use their thinking moves in the wild, helping them to develop habits of mind that will sustain their curiosity inside and outside the classroom. Given the broad range of thinking routines available, it might be tempting to try out as many routines as possible. But this approach can turn them into mere strategies, subverting a core aspect of their design that they get used over and over again. Choosing one core thinking routine, for instance, see, think, wonder, and trying it out in as many contexts as possible is more likely to reveal the ways thinking routines can support individuals in developing habits of thinking and groups in developing a culture of thinking together. Once you and your students get comfortable with the idea of using a routine for structuring your thinking, it's easier to branch out and find routines that fit well with the kind of thinking you'd like to invite. For instance, asking deep questions, making connections, coming up with explanations, challenging those explanations, and exploring alternative perspectives. Thinking routines might at first seem too simple, but it is their simplicity that makes them easy to remember and to use. Rather than simplifying ideas, thinking routines offer straightforward ways to sustain learners in their inquiry into complex problem spaces. While it does take time, using thinking routines in your classroom cultivates a community of thinkers with a culture of thinking, supporting learners in becoming intentional in their shared pursuit of deep understanding.
So this is the example of just one cluster, core thinkings. And there are 9 routines under this, the core thinking routines. You can go to the website and check them out. Some of them you might already be familiar with, like think, pair, share, see, think, wonder, compass points. Great routine to check out various perspectives, give different perspectives. Now I used to think, now I think. So these are some of the great routines that you can use in class, irrespective of grade, irrespective of irrespective of the subject. These are amazing routines that you can use. One of the greatest things, when you plan to use these routines, you yourself are, as a teacher, developing your own critical thinking skills. Next slide, please. So, great book. This is again, there is a lot of literature available on the net, but you can buy this book. It talks visible thinking routine in detail, gives you various research-based protocols and examples from the classrooms that will help making your critical thinking skills of your students and, of course, yourself robust. Next, please. Another great book, again by Harvard's project, Creating Cultures of Thinking. In this, Ron Richard, he outlines how schools can accomplish better thinking by leveraging the 8 cultural forces that he talks about: expectations, language, time, opportunities, various things. Another amazing book that you must read if you want to enhance your own critical thinking abilities. Next, please. Next, please. Yeah, these are absolute, these are my favorites. And Edward de Bono, I'm sure you've heard of Edward de Bono. He's a Maltese psychologist, physician, author, a philosopher, inventor, and he came up with various ideas about how humans think. In the very first book, Teach Yourself to Think, De Bono shows that good thinking depends on simple 5 stages. These are all very thin books, easily available on Amazon. In the next book, which is my favorite, 6 Thinking Hats, and they have been used extensively in schools, not to mention business, corporate world, all over the world. Creative thinking and critical thinking are both important aspects of problem solving, and the exercise by De Bono provides kind of a framework to practice both creativity and critical thinking. I mean, he has, if you put on the white hat, the focus shifts to factual information of data. If you move to black hat, the focus shifts to the various difficulties you might encounter. The red hat is about talking about feelings, emotions. Yellow hat, values and benefits. That particular thing that you are working on. Green hat, of course, is all about creativity, next steps, action plans that you'd like to take. And blue hat is about, focuses on processes, timing, next action plans. So especially when you are you want the children to look at a problem from various aspects and think about various perspectives, this works really beautifully. Of course, the next book on lateral thinking is about creativity. Mostly what De Bono maintains is that what when we teach children in school, it is what is called as vertical thinking. We ask them to solve simpler problems, but when the problems get complex, we don't encourage thinking out of the box. One of the reasons could be that we ourselves have not been trained to think out of the box. So Edward De Bono actually shows in this book how and I'm so
Sorry, Mantha
sorry
ma'am.
problem.
Yeah, we lost you for a bit. So if you could repeat that point again.
Can we go to the next slide, please?
Mantha ma'am, I suppose we missed the last point, but I think that's fine. We can come back to it later.
Yeah, I was just talking that tells you how you can uh,
Sure, ma'am. Sure, ma'am. I think we can proceed. That's fine.
these are some of the books that CBSE and NCRT have come up with. Uh, 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 Cogito.
Uh, Sorry, ma'am. I think we've lost you again.
Yeah, so these are some of the books that I will not really get into. I think we're losing time, and I'm extremely sorry, but just
No
don't
problem.
seem to know what to do with this. And my webinars with CENTA somehow seem to be so changed. I swear, I mean, I've been doing so many webinars and never had a problem, and today it had to. Oh Lord. Anyway, so these
Sure.
are some of the books that are ebooks downloadable. Cogito is amazing book where where evidence-based questioning. I mean, we have the natural instinct to question, and we know so many things, but do we have the evidence to prove that what we know is actually true? So we read in the books, we have been told that the earth revolves around the sun, but can we ourselves find evidence to prove this? So Cogito is amazing, very beautifully talks about that. There's the question book. Every species on earth faces problems, big or small, and we have especially human beings need to have problem solving abilities, and for us problem solving is a daily activity, and learning and understanding the process of this problem solving is beautifully sort of given in the question book. There's a book on 21st century skills, what the teachers can do in their classroom to and needless to say, when we do this in the classroom, we are also augmenting our own 21st century skills. There's another book on joyful learning, it's an experiential learning. So can we move on to the next, please? So we come to collaboration, the third C. Now, NEP mentions interdisciplinary projects, art integrated projects. Now, all this actually requires you for you to get your students to collaborate. So even before we ask our students to collaborate, how well are we trained to collaborate ourselves? Now, the beauty of collaboration is not only the ability to tap into various perspectives and ideas, but also to share responsibility for our students' learning. When teachers come together to share information, resources, ideas, expertise, learning becomes more accessible and effective to students. I mean, collaboration means actually purposefully building interpersonal relationships and showing healthy interdependence without forfeiting accountability. Next, please. Next, please. Yeah, so these are some of the suggestions that I would like to give when we are asking our students to collaborate. The first question we need to, how well are we ourselves collaborating? We need to build relationships with our colleagues. Teachers all too often work in silos, and teaching itself is a very, very isolating profession. So it is absolutely necessary that you have people that in your workplace, in your schools, that you can depend on, and for everything and anything. Basically, have friends that you can on whose shoulder you can cry on and share many other things. Also, this collaboration cannot just, the schools can't say teachers must collaborate and they start collaborating. No, the school systems must build into their timetables time for teachers to collaborate. 1 month on a Saturday, all maths teachers will meet. 1 month, once a month, or every fortnight, all the great teachers will meet. And this time has to be built in the school schedule. The school management, the principal, everybody needs to work together to help the teachers to collaborate. You can't just ask just teachers to collaborate and expect. But if this is not happening in your schools, take the initiative to collaborate. Become part of WhatsApp group, learning groups, where people don't put silly good morning and other messages, but the discussions are around new strategies to be used in your classroom, new videos to be shown, new online methods to be used, and where continuous professional development is the focus. So be those part of those kind of groups on Facebook. All those who are attending the webinar today we are in a way collaborating for our continuous professional development. Also, it is absolutely essential that we trust each other enough to share our responsibilities. The the pace of change is so fast, and so much is being is available, that it's not possible for you to keep a finger on the pulse for everything. So you need to be able to share responsibilities with amongst your colleagues, and say and work on your strengths, and figure out the other people's strengths, and work together to sort of make a robust system where each one's strengths add up to making a better experience in the schools. And yes, like in all workplaces, people there will be conflicts, there will be collaborating means many heads together, and there are going to be occasions, and agendas and protocols must be put in place where to solve these issues, where the focus is not on the focus is not on this on the teachers, but the focus is the work at hand, and what is happening, what needs to be done, what the students need to learn, what is the agenda, rather than the differences between people. So these are some of the things that you need to keep in mind to develop collaborative processes around you, and to be part of this collaborative systems in your schools. Next, please. So we come to communication. Teaching, of course, is all about communication. I mean, listening, speaking, reading, writing, presenting. Teachers who have good communication skills can instruct better, advise better, mentor better. And it's not just about students. You have to report, update your administrators. You have to deal with parents either virtually or in person. You have to deal with your colleagues. You have to deal with other staffs. I mean, teaching is synonymous with communication. So let's see, next slide. So one of the things that we, when we talk about communication, is that not only understanding what is being said, but what is not being said. I came across a very, very interesting blog where this teacher every Friday, just before the weekend, asks her students to write 4 names on 4 chits. These are the 4 students that whom they would like to sit with in the following week. The children know that these requests may or may not be honored. Also, the teacher additionally asks them to write down the name of one student who they think is the class citizen of the week, and then they all anonymously are put in a ballot box kind of a thing, and the children leave, and this teacher sits every weekend and goes through these chits. Now these chits that she collects, she spreads them out, and she looks at these chits, and she is not actually looking for to create some new seating plan, or looking for some exceptional citizen of the class. What this teacher is looking for is lonely children, who are the ones who have not been nominated by anybody, who doesn't even know who to nominate or who to request, who had lots of friends last week but has none this this week. So this teacher looks at those chits and looks at the patterns, the unsaid part of the story, and looks at children who are falling through the cracks, who are failing to connect with other students, who are feeling out of place in the classroom. She is discovering um, whose gifts are going to go unnoticed by other peers, who's going to be ignored, who's being bullied. So this is communication is not all about what is being said. It is also about what is not being said. Also, for a teacher, one of the biggest part of communication is the art and science of questioning. Firstly, we don't ask enough questions at the right time. Suppose a child comes to you and says, ma'am, what is the answer to the question? Either you answer it or you direct him to the answer. How about saying, what do you think? And then he comes up with the answer and he says, ma'am, do you think it's right? And you tell him whether it's right or wrong. No, you ask him another question. You say, what do you think? Is it right or wrong? So when you do that, you are actually making him dig deeper. And at the same time, you're also developing your capacity to look at it in a deeper manner. Teachers say they don't have time. I mean, imagine if we were to give so much time to every kid. The point is that when we don't make children think deeply in our classrooms, if we were to do that, if we invest time today, we wouldn't be wasting time, energy, and money to send them to all kinds of coaching classes for competitive exams and all and for coaching institutes to ace job interviews, because these are the very skills that are needed there, and then we wake up too late. So it is a good idea to invest now. Also, we get so busy looking for the answers that we forget not just asking questions, but the right kind of question. A great thing that I had read is raise the bar and the bar will raise you. We need to raise the bar of questioning. No point asking questions like Pinky ke kutte ka naam kya tha? I mean, Sunny. Now, this is not going to help anybody, any student or anyone for that matter, ever in the life. This has no relevance. So the quality of our questions is going to set the pattern of the thought processes that happen in your classroom. Ask quality, higher order thinking questions. Use the Bloom's taxonomy. Use the higher order thinking verbs. Thirdly, students, it's not just who's going to ask questions. When the in communication happening in the classroom, the questions should also come from the students. The students should be given the opportunity and the green signal to constantly bombard you with questions, because that's what is of relevance when we are talking about communication in the classroom. Discussions must happen, brainstorming must happen. A lot of schools I have seen teachers say, ma'am, the noise levels go up. There are many ways to control the noise levels. So we really need to sort of raise the bar for our questioning. Next, please. Another very important part of communication in a classroom for a teacher is giving feedback. Now, John Hattie, the guru of feedback, talks about the power of feedback. it is absolutely essential that we understand the kind of conversations that we have with kids with respect to feedback. Now, John Hattie and Helen Timperley wrote an article, The Power of Feedback, way back in 2007. And for the first time, it provided a detailed analysis of feedback and the impact it has on the quality of feedback, the impact that it has on student achievement, as well as teacher instruction. And so uh, the questions that you need to ask is that what to give as feedback. The feedback should be descriptive, not evaluative. Giving an A or saying can do better, work harder, or giving us a star is Hattie's 10 decades of research shows it has no bearing on student achievement. It has to be descriptive. You have to give the feedback in the sense you have to communicate where the student is missing it, what is it that needs to be done, and what are the steps that need to be taken to reach where he needs to reach. Also, when to give the feedback. When there are two students, one is great in English, one doesn't speak, one is just from the rural area, doesn't speak much English, they both at different times come and talk to you, and they both make mistakes when they speak. Of course, the one who's from the rural area makes a lot of mistakes. Would you check him right then? No. That's sometimes no feedback is good feedback. Right now, you just want him to talk. So you cannot communicate anything. It's better not to communicate anything, just let him speak. But there's somebody, the other student who's great at the English language, his spoken English is fantastic, but he mispronounces one word. You can immediately check him there because he is in a position to take that feedback. So when the feedback happens, also how to give the feedback. We call something called as feedback sandwich. Say something good in the beginning and introduce whatever negative, wouldn't say negative, but whatever improvements that you want to happen, and then again sandwich it between another. So these are the various ways to communicate things in the classroom, and it's absolutely important to understand and internalize these kind of systems for us, for our communication skills in the classroom. Next slide, please. Last slide, reflection. I can't tell you how important it is, teachers, for us to reflect. I know we have no time to write down reflection journals, but it is absolutely important, because if we don't reflect, we will not give opportunities for our students to reflect. And reflection is to the brain what digestion is to the stomach. Imagine what will happen if you have lunch immediately after breakfast and dinner immediately after lunch. You'll get indigestion. You need that time to give your body to digest that food. Similarly, when you need time to reflect, if not on a daily basis, at least on a weekly basis, reflect to digest whatever you have learned, whatever you've done in your class, whatever your experiences have been, because only then will you assimilate and move forward. So reflection has to be part of your routine, and it has to be made part of your students' routine as well. Next, please. I'm so sorry for this supersonic speed, but I have my eye on the clock and I'm just freaking out. Yes, thank you so much for thank God for giving me the opportunity to sit for the CENTA in 2015. was a wonderful experience. And why it was so wonderful was the fact that the questions were absolutely mind blowing. I was scared because I had not prepared anything, because I didn't know what to prepare. And when I went there, I noticed that not a single question was testing my memory. Wasn't about what I had read yesterday or what I had crammed the last week. It was they the questions made me dig deeper and into my learning experiences, or as a teacher over the years, or the books that I had read, and it all seemed to, while I was giving, I was marking the answers. It all seemed to sort of come together in such a amazing way. And I think it was just one of those exams where I came away learning something new. Hats off to CENTA, great work, and I would love to sort of keep giving CENTA exam, because it was such a learning process for me. It was something which was unexpected, but such a joyful experience. And this, I wish we could bring that quality into our classrooms, and really ask our students to think more and dig deeper, rather than just regurgitate and vomit what they mug up. So thank you so much, and my apologies again for those internet glitches. I'm just so sorry.
No, not a problem at all, ma'am. So, ma'am, thanks a lot for a wonderful, wonderful session. Even though we ran into a bit of a snafu, but that was completely fine. I mean, your session just made up for all the
We
those
20 minutes over time, and I'm just so apologetic, but it's just one of those things, I mean,
Absolutely, absolutely. You can never predict it. I mean, it'll go wrong when you're least expecting it to. So that's
yes, yes,
completely fine.
yes, 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 I know.
Sure, ma'am. So it's, yeah, 22
Thank you
minutes
so
past
much.
six.
And
Not a problem. Uh, 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 I'm not sure if we'll have time for questions, but we'll just see.
So, Karthik, if you can just show the last slide, my email ID is there. In
Sure,
case if anybody has any questions or wants to get into a discussion, or want to
sure,
discuss something, or
sure,
just want to inquire about something, or
sure,
has some suggestions for me, I would love to connect with those people. So if you could just show
sure,
the last slide,
sure.
I
I'll actually put that in the chat section, ma'am. I'll put the
yeah,
your email
yeah,
address in the chat section.
yeah,
That
yeah,
we could do that. So I'm just
yeah, yeah.
putting your email address in the chat section. So I think that should be.
I mean, I
Uh,
would have loved to go a little slower, but it was
sure,
just one of those things. Today was
sure,
just a bad day. I mean,
sure, sure.
so I'm
Uh,
sure there are a lot of. I was anyway asking a lot of questions, so I'm sure there are a lot of people who want to take the conversation forward, and I'd love to do that.
Sure. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, ma'am. Meera ma'am is actually saying she feels that it could have been a bit longer. So absolutely, we'll
Thank you so
try
much.
to get you back for a longer session. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot once again, ma'am. I mean, I really, really appreciate that. I mean, this was done at such a short notice, and with all the other issues that you have. I mean, thanks with the tech issues. I mean, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for doing this for us. And so for others, and there were almost 800 teachers who were watching us live. So that's absolutely incredible.
So that makes
So
me even more sort of supremely guilty. So.
sure. Yeah. So I hope so those of you who felt that they who missed parts of it, that's not a problem at all. This video is going to be available on YouTube. So please, you can go back and watch the whole session in entirety. And also, please do like the video, share it with your friends and colleagues, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. And it's just because of his support, as I said earlier, that we've reached 50 sessions, and we've reached also 5,000 subscribers on YouTube. So I mean, that's a Thanks a lot to all of you, and I hope that you keep on supporting us and help us in this journey. So 2020 is coming to an end, but the CENTA webinar series is not ending. We're here, so we'll see you next Thursday. We're not having a session this Thursday, but we'll see you next Thursday, which is 7th of January. That's going to be the 51st session in the series, and we are going to focus on storytelling and how storytelling can become an impactful tool to
Wow.
enhance the teaching learning process. So that's going to be the session, and it's going to be facilitated by Miss Bandan Preet Mahajan, and she's again a TPO winner. She's again an incredible teacher. So she's going to be facilitating the session for you. And the registrations for that are going to open up tomorrow on my center. Of course, you'll be notified by email and SMS. So please keep an eye on that, and also encourage your friends and colleagues to register for the session. I'm sure it's going to be a great session, and it's going to be a great start to the new year. Thanks a lot once again, and I hope all of you have a wonderful evening ahead, and all of you have a wonderful year ahead. I'll see you all in 2021 now. So thank you once again.
Happy New Year.